Yeah. Can we just unpack that a little bit, because there's a couple of things that I really wanted to talk to you about, and I think this is almost like the perfect segue into doing it. So, talk to me a little bit about contracts and about, what did your first contract as a professional athlete, what did that look like, and how how bad was it?
And how what crap was it?
How bad was it?
No, at the time it was great, but looking back now, um, it was less than a McDonald's wage.
Right.
I mean, when you take it back to South Africa, and you're a 21-year-old upstart thinks he knows everything, you're stoked, right? But yeah, I don't know what to say about it. So the contracts, it's an awesome feeling getting your first contract. When I had done 3 years racing for peanuts, and I had a lot of support, don't get me wrong, and I had to prove myself. I wasn't from an established nation where I got more help. I had to establish myself, and once I got there, I got this contract. So you get in the mail, and it's a hell of a lot of legal jargon, let me tell you that.
And do you have someone look over it? Are you switched on enough
yeah.
at that point, or are you just stoked?
No, I'm stoked. So yeah, so we'll unpack that. So I get it in an email. I think I was still at the last race of the season in Fort William, with 1 week to go home, so burnt out, no money in my pocket. So I get this contract. I just scroll straight down to the dollar salary amount, and there is one. So I'm stoked. So that's a start.
Yeah.
So, and they're paying for my expenses and there's a bonus schedule and stuff like that.
Okay.
But back then it's $15,000, right? And I'd had top tens in a World Cup the year before. So I don't know. Am I worth more? Am I worth less? I don't know. I'm a kid from South Africa. I'm phoning my dad, my late father, and I mean, he's not going to let me go, ask for more money. He's going to be like, be grateful. This is what you worked for. Right? But I mean, that's not even money to go in 6 months around the world, freaking risk life and limb. You could get hurt at any stage, So I wish there was a way to I don't know if there's a way to standardize. There probably isn't. But you asked who looks over the contract, right? So, my late dad, bless him, so he would look over it, but he just wanted me to have a ride, so he wasn't too fussed. But I'd made some connections with past teams I've been on, and I'm not going to name names, but listen to this story. So a year or two into some of my contracts, you have to renegotiate. So I outsourced looking over the contract to someone in the industry, just so that I wasn't, the wool wasn't pulled over my eyes. And I suggest everyone do that. Get a second opinion. Why not? And if you need a second opinion, phone me up. DM me. Slide into the DMs. I might not know everything, but maybe I've been through something. So anyway, this is a rule that I will live by, hopefully, for important emails. So I was talking to the person helping with the contract about the person at the company. And because that was in my head, I put that person in the to box instead of the person overlooking my contract. And I press send. So just be a 22-year-old realizing you have just spoken about what you're not getting, what you think you deserve, or how do we do this? How do we deal with this? There was no bad talk, but this was confidential information sent to the person that was meant to help me. I sent it to the freaking person doing the contract at the high up at the company.
Oh, no.
Bro.
How did that go down?
It went down. I was so scared. I phoned Gary Perkin, flipper that does amazing photography and was on the World Cup circuit. He was helping, I think, with my website at the time, and I was like, Gary, how do I get the email back? It's got to be it's obviously in space, right?
Can you catch it?
And he's like, I was like, you do the server stuff, like, No, but we're not getting that back. And I sat and I
Oh.
waited. And I think the reply was still quite professional because I hadn't made them aware that I was using someone because I wasn't paying the other person. I didn't have an official agent. I just paid them a once-off fee, I think, to help. And I think it just came back like, hi, pretty much, I think you should sign the version you have. We're not going to carry on negotiating. So luckily, I still got the negotiation, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's
So
crazy.
you probably didn't think you were going to get that story tonight.
No, that's insane. That's really funny.
Yeah.
That is funny. What and so okay, so you get this contract, and what does it state in there? Like, what is it? I've never had a contract like that ever been given to me. So and no doubt a lot of people listening won't have either. So does it have media obligations in there? Does it have obviously a bonus structure? And then as you progress through your race season, do you know? Is it easy to remember? Like, okay, if I get this position, I get an extra whatever $1,000 or. How do you manage that? Because I know a lot of people would probably be like, oh, I forgot to ask for my money. I forgot to invoice it. How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, the contract, like I said, a lot of legal jargon. There's both sides. It's almost like a rental agreement, but, there's a company and there's athlete. There's obligations from both sides. I will say it's very, as with the landlord, it's often in the landlord's favor. It's often in the person giving you the monies. A little bit in their favor because, there's clauses like if you're injured for a certain amount of time, your pay can get docked. And some of those clauses I don't think are fair enough or weren't. So we're talking past, not current. Current, it's got a lot better. It's a lot different as an ambassador and stuff. So there's those sort of clauses. Got your salary, you got your bonus schedule. Back then there was media bonus for magazines and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it's on your own account to make note of magazines you're in, go out and go and get those connections and do all that. But then it's up to you, yeah. I mean, to look at the fine print when you're meant to invoice for your salary. Are you invoicing? Do they need your bank details? Bonuses are great because you're obviously stoked to get a good result and then you can get a bonus as well. But you alluded to a point. So that's the contract, asking for money and, so NFL players get a lot of money and all this pressure and expectations. Remember, the more money you demand, the better you better race. The more you better. So, I mean, you want to win a race, you want to be Loic Bruni, you want to be Greg, you're going to eventually demand good money and you're worth it. But then that's where you need to be racing it for wins, podiums. The minute you start slipping, then the pressure starts building.
Yeah. What have you must have had conversations like that in your racing career as well. Like, where do those conversations come down from? Is it from like corporate? And how do those sort of conversations? And
performance? Performance.
Yeah, like how have they taken place? Like, is it like let's sit down, let's have a chat. Like, what's going on with you?
I think as a racer, or I speak for myself, like I always put so much pressure on myself too much anyway. Like I think any team that tries to do that or does that consciously is really looking for trouble. I think most, if not all teams I've been part of, very supportive. Everyone just, the better the riders do, the better the team does, the better the sponsors, they're more happy. It's this big ecosystem. But sometimes riding for certain teams, there is that you can feel it. You can feel that the riders haven't got the results. So you can feel the mechanics are tense. You can feel the that feeling's there. And I remember on early on, like, I was sitting there and sitting with the mechanic, and we get on very well. And I think he let slip. The guys in the office are talking and like, we got to step it up. And I was like, what? These guys haven't even been to a race this year. We're dealing with a bike that's not working. Like, then what do you mean? So that's tough pill to swallow when you are putting your heart and soul in. The mechanics are putting your heart and soul in, and sometimes the results are not going your way, and sometimes it's really, really tough because that does build. Because then if you're in a contract year, I mean that's the year you need to perform. So if you have a 2-year deal and you do well in year one, it kind of sucks because if you don't have a good year two, sometimes they forget about year one. Yeah.
You mentioned something as well, just briefly, about like injury clauses. So have you had any issues with that in your career?
No,
Because I often, when you see someone get hurt, you straight away like, oh shit, like what are they going to do? And guess you still get paid. You're not going to get any bonuses or.
So a lot of those things are put in there from the legal side of a corporation. We've had these discussions, and you get reassured that they've never really been acted on. And then I all props to the teams, these contracts. I've never had an issue with one of them. Touch wood, I didn't have a long injury, but I haven't seen it happen too much. I think they have to put it in just in case something goes on for really long, or maybe the athlete isn't wanting to come back, but he's healthy. I don't know. But teams have been really good. Like I say, so there's no bitterness to this. There's just like giving some first-hand information and hoping that it can improve and maybe be a bit more standardized. But I've only had really good experiences. I've never had like, hey, this line item here, you didn't quite do that, so we're going to dock your pay like 10%. Like no one's ever acted on that. No one's acted on like an injury clause with me, that is. I can't speak for other riders.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. And then I think this is another like perfect segue into talking about like salaries and stuff. So within that contract, you really need to have made sure you negotiate travel expenses, because that appears to be probably the most expensive aspect of what you did for a living, which is traveling the world, eating in various places, different currencies, hotels, traveling around. That must super get expensive if you're footing that bill as a privateer or something like that.
Oh my goodness!
I can't even imagine how they're doing it.
No, me either. I mean, that's also so on that thing. Like for people to understand, cycling is a salary-based sport. Even though some of the salaries we spoke about can be looked at as low, but I think in road cycling is a bit more standardized as like a domestique. It's like a certain like base level on an UCI team, and maybe that's a way to, hey guys, can we not standardize the teams a bit, and when you get a rider, he kind of needs to get paid in this bracket if he's going to be that type of rider. But anyway, before I lose my train of thought on that, where were we? I have lost my train of thought. Brilliant.
Talking about travel expenses.
Yeah, so the reason I lost it is because as a race team, you're not prize money based, you're salary based, and all your expenses on most of these teams are taken care of. So your flights, your accommodation, food on the way to the race, stuff like that. So you're not very out of pocket during races and during the season. But what I thought was interesting is slopestyle guys. There was good majority of slopestyle riders getting paid quite a lot, and that's good, getting paid decent. But not all of their contracts have travel allowances and budget. I don't know. I haven't looked at any contracts, not allowed to look at them, but I know that industry, freeride and stuff, you don't always have a travel budget. Sometimes on race teams, you have a travel budget, $20,000 for the year. You book your flights, go mad. Back in the day, corporate cards. I heard back in the days, some teams had, cards. The riders had the card. We don't want to hear about it. Go buy your food, go to dinner, whatever. Note to anyone, don't swipe those at the strip club. I never did that. I never had a corporate card. But if you're in a moment of desperation and you don't know where your card is, do not swipe a corporate card. You'll get fired. Because if the wrong person sees that statement. But the slope stylists, it must be tough because a lot of them have to pay for their flights, accommodation, food, extra baggage charges, stuff like that. So they're
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because there isn't a physical team traveling around?
Yeah, it's just the setup of it. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, they've got to be. Yeah, it's just not the system that's been used really. That they get. Yeah, it's like there's not a lot of companies that say, okay, our free ride team, and here's the manager, and this is how it's run. It's like, okay, cool, we need a free rider. Here's your frame deal, and here's your money. And if you're not smart about it, you don't have a travel budget. And then, okay, here's your money for your tire sponsor. So you've got to kind of negotiate in how you want to do it. If you want to deal with your own travel or you want a travel budget. Look, some of them do, but I'm not sure how it all works.